Okay, are we live yet? I guess we're gonna see. I gotta do that thing I do in the beginning where I talk and fill the void until we find out if we are live, because that's how cool we are. All right, let's get to talking. So I'm flipping the old sands of time here, which is about 30 minutes. I have a subject here that I'd like to discuss. The subject is faith. Specifically, I walk in perfect faith. That expression is something that occurred to me at some point. Something I just started saying. I started saying, I walk in perfect faith. And I heard somebody repeat it. They said, you have this thing you say, I walk in perfect faith. And then once they said it, I'm like, that must be a thing. Why am I saying that? I thought about it, and as somebody who is raised with the Bible, among other religious, what do I want to even call it, right? I want to be careful. I don't want to be judgmental. I've been exposed to a lot of religions. Different religions have different traditions. They have different scriptures. They have different timelines. They have different clothes that they wear, different cultures, subcultures. And it's my opinion, and I'm just one guy, so don't get butthurt if it's not your same opinion and think that I'm trying to use my influences to spread some weird, cult crap across the internet and influence people or whatever. All I'm saying is I'm sure there are exceptions to the rule, because there are always exceptions to rules. But from my perspective, the best practitioners of every religion arrive at the exact same understanding. That understanding cannot be taught. Instruction does not yield that understanding. What you can attempt to provide is a roadmap that checks off enough of the boxes. Meditation, prayer, giving praise, redirecting judgment to validation, loving one's brother, doing unto others as you would have others do unto you. Recognizing the entire cosmos as a giant pulsating organism that at its meta is in fact self-aware. And we, as parts of that whole in this specific manifestation, have the ability to toggle between particle consciousness and wavelength consciousness. We can either be the gush of the fountain, or we can be the little droplets that, as they fall for just moments, look like people. When I was living in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, I became friends with this girl, Holly. And we became kayaking buddies. And then she realized that I was an artist, saw my art, liked my art, because my art was my meditation. I mean, I had just survived Hurricane Katrina. And that was just another moment in the journey of the life of this guy. So I'd been doing this style of artwork all along. The style of artwork is a meditation. It's designed to put me in the same headspace as I'm sure making Celtic manuscripts did for those monks. Making mandalas is for Tibetans. Weaving ornate Middle Eastern rugs is for the person who praises God in every stitch. And you say, oh no, there's the G word, or the A word, Allah, or any of the other words, Jehovah, Lord, Yod He, Vov He. I mean, come on, man. What's in a name? Holly and I became friends. We paddled around New Orleans together. She saw that my art was a meditation. She vibed with it because she got it. She got it. She was someone taming her inner wild child and practicing being peace. Getting through some turbulence. She was down in New Orleans as a FEMA worker. So she got to see a really interesting view of New Orleans, Hurricane Katrina. And then she meets me on Craigslist. Yeah. And because I put an ad out there saying, hey, I'm looking for a friend to go paddling around with. She responded. Next thing you know, we went paddling around. It was pretty cool. She saw my artwork and she said, I really like your artwork. And I said, thanks. It was black and white work on wood. Nothing really special, if I'm honest. It didn't matter what it looked like. What mattered was the meditation. I didn't understand that at the time. I mean, I did, but something about hitting 50 that puts everything into a new perspective. And the hustler in me knew she was making that FEMA money. And I saw that she really liked the thing. All the work I was doing, I mean. She liked this one image I did of a dragon. I sold it to her. I got paid well. But you know what, in retrospect, she got a deal. It's a really nice piece of work. And she really appreciated what it was. I've always had a bad habit of giving my artwork away. I used to give my toys away. I didn't care about the money part of it. True story. My friends are always telling me, charge. You got to charge. You can't just work for people for free. You got to charge. So Holly, I, said, all right, X $100 or whatever, $1,000, 900, 800, something. And at the time, I could use the money, but she knew what she got. She got something. She's from Colorado, as they say. And she's been around a lot of nature, big nature. There's this one fountain off of, I think it's St. Charles or Magazine or one of those damn places, one of those streets. It's not St. Charles. Is it St. Charles? Anyway, there's this fountain. There's a little park. And there's a fountain. And she said, every time I come to this fountain, I have this, I think it's going to probably sound a little bit crazy, but I have this same image. It's this fountain. It happens here, but I've seen it on other fountains as well. When the fountain goes up and the pieces break off, they always look like people falling to me. I'm wondering if you could make something speak into that. Like I'd commission you to do that. And I did it. I did a piece called The Fountain. And it's incredibly simplistic. Black line, filled in with white, on wood. That was my jam. It has been since I was like 18 years old in New York. So finding pieces of art and pieces of wood and dumpsters and painting with it on it with black and white placa by Pelican. That was an illustrator's medium. That's what you used before. I mean, when I was in college, like graphic arts was like by hand. You didn't do it on computers. So different time. Anyway. That's some old man shit to say right there, but it's true, man. That's true. That's what it was. But so Holly, anyway, she commissioned me to do this fountain, and I did it. And I guess if I tried, I could find an image of this thing and put it in the comments. I don't even know who watches these things. But I remember the importance for me of making it a fountain. Thinking of it exactly like that, as a fountain, as something where the drops go down and they're absorbed back up. I think that's a very important archetype. And it doesn't escape me that there are some who have suggested that the universe is essentially a torus, Torus, which perpetually ingests and expels itself. And that all of the objects in life, so to speak, or as they are perceived, or how it might be, in particle identification, let's say, are sort of swimming in these waters that are moving to this sort of cosmic pulse or rhythm. And if you're a physicist, I'm sure, this sounds super right-brained, and it is. But then again, as I mentioned a couple of times today in session, Vincent van Gogh, in painting Starry Night, um, intuitively tapped into some scientifically accurate patterns of uh, turbulence. I guess he unwittingly illustrated um, the dynamic, the dynamics of fluid turbulence, or whatever the case may be. Google it. Um, there's a beingness to all of this. All of this. And when you've put in the man hours, whether it's drawing or painting or counting off prayer beads or praying the rosary or knitting one stitch at a time. There are so many different ways to achieve this state of vision. What you hear defined as amazing grace. Perfect peace. And this absolute certainty that you're rooted in the energetic core of a very vast singular system or network or consciousness. And when you've had this experience, this awareness, trying to use words to describe it makes you sound like somebody who's talking about something that you're not familiar with. That's what it makes you sound like. You know that feeling when you're listening to sports from a sports station from a country that you're not familiar with, you know, like Australian sports ball, you know, and you listen to some of the stuff. I mean, unless you're Australian, and then of course, you know, pick a different country, and yeah, same thing. Sounds like a bunch of crazy mess. Sounds insane. They sound like they're just making it up. It sounds like a Monty Python skit. And for every person who's ever genuinely tried to have this conversation, there are so many versions of fraud. So it doesn't make any sense to try to convince anyone of anything by talking to them, especially since, as I said in the beginning of all of this, you can't teach it by instruction. You can lead a horse to water, you cannot make it drink. What you can do, I know from experience, is you can walk that horse around in shoulder at high water until he calms his ass down. Speaking again, like I said, from a summer spent taking care of horses. Faith is the certainty that while your identity as a falling drop in the fountain of life is temporal, your identity as the fountain itself is permanent. And when you get that, you walk in perfect faith, or arguably fall in perfect faith. Since walking is nothing but perpetually falling and picking yourself back up again, isn't it? Look at this. Wow. That is, I'm ahead of schedule. I thought with all of those dramatic Pinter pauses, we'd be at 2 hours by now, but I'd say I did that so far in about maybe 10 minutes. So what if you don't have faith because you've not had this experience? Well, what happens is you have people who follow gurus. I never want to be identified as a guru. That's not my shtick. That's not my gig. That's not what I'm going for. I can be identified as a survivor, a trauma survivor. But the more I coach, the more I mean, I've been educating and coaching for a long time. So I'm no new jack here to this system, this mentorship thing. And I have to say, the more I do it, the more I see so many similarities with guys who want faith but aren't willing to pay the iron price for it. They're going to fight it. They're going to fight it. You know, people who are super, super, super secular are, you know, going to go down their little path, and people who are agnostic or people who are atheist or whatever, and all of those labels are completely uninteresting. One of the things I do here in my coaching practice is I say right from the beginning, I'm white labeling spirituality. I have guys who are practicing Muslims. I have guys who are Orthodox Jews. I have guys who are Jews, but not like that. I have guys who are Muslim, but not like that. I have guys who are Hindu or Hindu light, you know, traditionally Hindu, but really spiritual and open-minded to Western ideas, just as we've become to Eastern ideas. Like Jesus was, you know, he was obviously influenced by India, right? And before I even get into that rabbit hole, or not, doesn't matter. Maybe he existed, maybe he doesn't. It's all metaphor. That's the way I perceive it. That's the lens I'm looking through. It's all metaphor. Any snapshot you take of any particular arrangement of dots, of drops, of droplets, as they fall, cascading over and over, going through the laundry cycle of life, the big fountain. If you freeze that and then put a square and compass on it and start drawing a whole bunch of lines together and doing the math on it, it all triangulates very neatly. The checksum works out. And you learn that By recognizing that the devil really is in the details. It's not your sword of discernment that you're putting away. It's this dagger that you're using to attack yourself. I work with enough guys to know. Because you judge yourself. And if you judge yourself, you judge your brother. It is impossible from a certain perspective not to understand how simple that idea is. When you judge yourself, you judge your brother because you're connected, even though that connection might be masked by the way you are choosing to perceive. But when the finger attacks the finger, the hand attacks itself, which is kind of silly. So here we have our fountain. What do I want to perceive? Do I want to perceive disconnection or do I want to perceive connection? As long as I don't lose track of the connection, experiencing the disconnection is great. But the fearful are those who truly believe that they have become completely autonomous and have somehow become permanently disconnected from their source. Walking the faith talk. God, it sounds so crazy. You think I don't know it? I mean, do you really, honest to God, think I don't get it? Like every single time I make one of these videos, I tell myself, you run the risk of sounding completely insane. You're a slow-moving target. You make yourself easy to attack. But to hear that, there's the dagger. I literally wrote on this piece of paper. What does that say? Walking the faith talk. You see it? Right now in San Diego, it's 1234 a.m. on April 7th. And my job is to make these videos. And it is a leap of faith to get onto this thing and start talking for the better part of 30 minutes to the subject of faith, going all over the place with all these different religions, all this different stream of consciousness flibbledy-flu. And yet in doing it, I demonstrate perfect faith. And in going live, I model perfect faith. So what's the bottom line? What I'm telling you is I'm a guy who coaches guys. I've been doing it for a long time. Guys deal with self-judgment. Don't get so lost in religiosity that you miss the reason the religion was created. It's guidelines for practicing peace, man. And peace is fearlessness. And you become fearless by leaning into the very things that make you uncomfortable. And instead of worrying about the people that are going to come along and throw rotten tomatoes at you for video quality or how you talk or your lighting or your message or your freaking all the things, all of you guys that are that I talk to on a daily basis that want to make videos, just record that crap and put it out there, man. Be you. That's what resonates. Because you are the fountain You are the drops. You're the particle. You're the wavelength. It's all good. And if it doesn't seem to be, that's a misperception. And the good news is, if you stay still long enough and quit kicking, practice meditation, practice taking breaths, right? Practice smiling, which feels stupid, but do it anyway. Right? Because your vibe's just a little better that way. And teach faith and learn it as you teach it. That's a message for anyone, because you're always teaching. That's the message. That's a good one. Oh, Dennis, good job. I'm going to give myself another good one. And I got to thank the universe for providing that spontaneous monologue. Good stuff, universe. Keep up the good work. I'll keep my antenna up and you just keep sending it right through my face hole. All right, well, listen, if you stuck with me for this long, thanks. And if you're smelling the craziness that I'm stepping in over here and you want to be a part of it because it seems like maybe it's good crazy and you might learn something, you're right. You might. So hit like, hit subscribe, follow, join, submit, become a part of the cult. And man down, boo. Man up, yay. So if you need help with that,